Hello and welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Now, my channel Soul Symbols is mostly dedicated to card reading for well-being. But in addition to that, I wanted to do a separate series of videos in honor of Earth Day 2020. The environmentally friendly topics like recycling and finding out what technology is being used to help the planet has always been an interest of mine. And what I decided to do was go ahead and create what I had thought was going to be one video, but of course there's so many things to talk about when you are talking about environmentally friendly topics that I did go ahead and break it up into a series of videos. So this is only for the span of the time in 2020. I might add videos periodically to it, but it's not going to be all the time. But it was just a second hobby that I am very passionate about and that I wanted to share with you. So the last video that we did, I talked about the viability of glass and the way that it's recyclable and the way that it contributes to possible solutions for the future. And what I wanted to talk about today was another really pressing topic, which is reusable cups. I touched on the fact that it is becoming a lot more popular, and I'm very glad that it's becoming acceptable and trendy, that people bring their own utensils, they bring their own cups, because single-use cups are, quite honestly, one of the biggest problems with recycling or with trash production. And in addition, it's something that we can really control. It's something that we can make a positive change with our daily habits. And so, as I mentioned in the previous video on glass, I am a big advocate of glass. What it is that the material is a little bit controversial, because what happens is plastic containers take about anywhere from 70 years to 450 years to biodegrade, which, and also depending on the type of plastic, you can recycle the plastic anywhere from 7 to 9 times. And if you get a chance to watch the video on fossil fuels and plastic, and then there are also many wonderful videos here on YouTube that talk about where our plastics come from. But given the scale, plastics are, on a time frame, the fact that they biodegrade at all is a good thing. But glass has been a little bit villainized, because what happens is it takes glass just like sand. Sand is little pieces of glass, and if you watched the last video, you saw glass takes about 1,000,000 years to biodegrade, which I know on the timeline of things we'd think, oh, okay, plastic is better, right? But the problem that we're running into is that plastic can be recycled hopefully 7 to 9 times. But if you look at your containers, it might say 40% recycled plastic, right? We're still pulling fossil fuels to make up that other 60%, and we're not recycling as much as we should, right? And glass, even though it doesn't biodegrade, it doesn't go back into the ground until after 1,000,000 years, it is infinitely recyclable. It doesn't have a cap on the number of times you can recycle it, and it can be used for different purposes. So I touched on that in the last video, if you get a chance to watch it. So in that instance, as long as the glass is not tempered, as long as it's not Pyrex, because what that is it's plastic, and plastic touches everything, insulating the glass to make it unbreakable. If you use regular drinking glasses, unfortunately, also classify as tempered. So, but if you find a container that's recycled glass and not tempered, and what I did is I found a container that is glass, and what I do is I use it for my water. and it's a recycled glass. It's non-tempered. It comes in a sleeve that I can remove it from the sleeve and put the glass into the washer. I have two of them. They both have bamboo tops, which is bamboo is a renewable resource. It's one that we're starting to turn to more often. You'll see more like things like reusable razors and toothbrushes. You'll see them being made of bamboo. But I use the glass every single day, and what I do is I fill it up with water, and then after a few days or after a day or so, I rotate it out. I use one or the other, and I continually to wash it, and it's saved. It's replaced my single-use habit of relying on plastic bottles for water. So what you would do is to replace the plastic habit, and using our glass bottles, you can fill up your glass bottles with water that's dispensed. And it's wonderful that we have the technology today that is very easy to do. And you can do that one of several ways. The way that I get my water, where it is not contributing to plastic, is that I live with roommates, and so that the number of people in our household allows us to have enough need to have a water cooler. And the water cooler is filtered water, filtered 12 times for purity. It's delivered in the large plastic containers that are BPA free. Once we put it on a filtration stand that we keep clean or that we can replace. And what it is that once the water is done, you give the water, the plastic water bottle back, and what it will do, they'll take it back, sanitize it, reuse it again. So, and then inevitably, so you're saving 395 plastic bottles from the landfill every year. Now, alternatively, if you don't want to, pay a subscription for, a water cooler, there are filtration systems that you can install right on your sink that you can use. Alternatively, you have water filtration systems that are large containers that you store in your refrigerator, and you pour tap water in and it filters it through a filter. You can replace those filters. You can clean the container. You can eventually, I don't know if you could recycle the container eventually, but that still saves the daily plastic bottles from the landfill, which is our goal, right? It's still a lot less impact than having that water bottle every day. Same thing with soda. The fact that you can do soda from a fountain, right? Maybe, again, it's a little bit of a trade-off, because we do need to get more to that dispenser kind of lifestyle. Now, the other big culprit for single-use cups is coffee. And oh my gosh, this is a big one for me. And I spoke in the fossil fuels video about how plastic, and we've talked about it in this video as well, plastic can only be recycled 7 to 9 times. So when you look at a coffee cup, the lid is plastic, so that's in the, either recycled 7 to 9 times, or, anywhere from 70 years to 450 years to biodegrade. The paper sleeve is very biodegradable. That's probably 2 to 6 months. Now, the cup itself, that one is a bigger animal, because the cup itself is likely to be lined with either some type of wax or some type of plastic. And the plastic is the culprit, right? Plastic touches everything. The other thing is you got a hot liquid going into that one-time cup. So instead, bring your own mug. Since I've started this, I took an environmental course at my local college, non-credit. Since I've been learning more and revisiting this, and in my goal to make the change to be better, I've started bringing reusable cups to my coffee place. And this could be any place. It could be a mainstream coffee place. Every single coffee chain that I've seen allows you to bring in your own mug, which is wonderful. And it actually gives you a 10-cent discount or some kind of incentive for doing that. They sell coffee mugs that you can buy. And the beauty of it is that, you're not only saving that cup from the landfill, is that you are also contributing to your own health as well. A lot of paper cups are lined with polyethylene, and it's like, do you want that in your system? You know, even if it's in small amounts. One other thing that you need to look at, and you know, and again, this is to be solutions for both health and environment, because we go hand in hand. We're not separate from nature. We're a part of nature. Anytime you put, for instance, you know, anytime you use the single-use K-cups, and unfortunately, you'll see that in the news. K-cups are filling up landfills. They're not recyclable. And the other disadvantage is, if you look at the plastic, if you watch the video that I did on fossil fuels, that's a fossil fuel. And just like when you look at, if you're in a parking lot and you see a pool of water that has some kind of gas or something in it, you know, it has a kind of a rainbow sheen to it. Not to freak anybody out, but if you've ever used a K-cup or one of those single-use coffee discs, if you look at the top of your coffee, it has the same rainbow sheen. And again, our livers can filter out a lot, but it is basically putting a very minute amount of plastic in what you're drinking. So to save that, you can use a reusable cup, like a ceramic cup, a porcelain cup. It doesn't even have to have a lid. I have a cup that I've started, and I've been very adamant. I'm like, okay, for one whole month, 30 days straight, I'm not going to allow myself to have a one-use cup. I'm going to bring my BYO. I'm going to bring my own. And a few times I didn't even have a cup that had a lid, and it worked fine. It didn't spill. It was fine. And the other beauty of that is that, you know, we've had ceramics long enough, you've had porcelain mugs long enough to know that it's not going to have that same effect. It's not going to put particles of something in your drink. And that's not to scare anyone. That's just to be real. We're being real in these videos, right? We're keeping it real. But that's something to consider. You know, that's yet another incentive to make the change, right? It's not only keeping it out of the landfill, it's keeping it out of you. Now, lastly, in the coffee field, if you do not want to have to go to the big coffee chain and pay $5, $3 every day, because that adds up too, you can have a coffee maker at home. You know, those are expensive. They pay for themselves, whether it be espresso or just a regular coffee. It is encouraged that you keep it stainless steel, because again, same thing. You got hot liquid going through plastic tubing, just on a health scheme there. Now, alternatively, if you do not want to do a coffee machine, there are wonderful funnels. There's what they call a pour over, and this is what I use all the time. It's a ceramic funnel, and it's just like a coffee mug, same material. You put it on top of your coffee cup. You put an unbleached coffee filter inside of it. Scoop in your coffee, and then I go over to my water cooler, and it has a hot option. I pour hot water and I pour it over, or you heat up water on a stove in the microwave and pour it over. And that is the funnel is dishwashable, not putting anything into the landfills. The paper filter, non-bleached, very biodegradable. And if you really wanted to reuse the coffee grounds, flower beds love that. You can try to put it into a compost. You can learn about composting. There's a lot of really wonderful programs out there that will show you how all of that is done. So that really is something that you can do, and that covers the two big ones, right? Water and coffee. Now, to cover a third one, if you are a fan of your favorite alcoholic beverage. Now, a lot of wine bottles are glass. So again, those are recyclable. As long as it's not tempered, you can recycle it. The cork for a lot of wine, cork is a little bit of an over-farmed substance. Natural cork has been kind of overly produced, and where trees have been are now rare, and they do have like a synthetic type of cork that they're using for wine, but you could always look at it and see. I don't know if the corks for the synthetic cork is recyclable. That would be a good question. That might be something I'll look into, because that's another thing we wanted to do. The goal of this series was to ask questions and see what we can do differently, because we're very smart and we're conscientious and we can make these changes, right? So that'll be something I put on my list to figure out. Now, alternatively, if you are more of a beer drinker and not a wine drinker, another really great option that I've seen lately, and I've seen be very successful, is that there's been a wonderful upturn in economy for microbreweries, smaller breweries that are not the mainstream. And the beauty of that is kind of twofold. I do believe that a lot of these changes that we make in our environment also affect the social sphere of how we do things. I've talked about this a little bit, where we've become such a technological world where we're on our phones, and there is such a thing as what we call a third place. And if you look into social psychology, there's a lot of good videos that you can watch about this. And what it is that your home is your first place, because it's where you spend the majority of your time. Your work is your second place, or school. And your third place is where you go, that is not work or home, but is where you go to connect. And social media has become our third place. But in that, there is a lot of detachment. Sometimes I have my own opinions on that. I'm not going to get into them here, but I do think that social interaction is very important. Social media is good too. It's not bad. But I do think that in getting environmentally, I think there's going to be an added benefit of finding solution to environmental problems. And I think this is one of them, is that, I'm not telling everyone to go to the bar. I'm not telling you that. But one of the benefits is, just like with the coffee, I have to get up a little bit earlier. I get more steps in, and I take my coffee cup into my coffee place, and I meet the people there. I'm definitely on a first name basis with all of my coffee people. But it's the same thing if you are a beer drinker. Now, the cool thing, and long story short, sorry, the cool thing is now there is such a thing called a growler. A growler is a glass bottle that holds about 4 servings of a drink. And I know you might need a few of them. It's going to, again, making these changes is not going to be easy nor convenient, but it makes a world of difference. And honestly, again, it's changing the habit. I had to get used to getting up early and walking inside and not going through the drive-through, right? I had to give up some convenience to make this work, to always use my reusable coffee mug. Same thing, right? Same soup. But if you do have a favorite microbrewery, and there's so many of them now, which is great. That's a wonderful thing for the economy, by the way. They have glass bottles called growlers. And what it is the growler, and again, it shouldn't be much bigger than a big growler, because from what I've been told, and I've talked to people about this, if it's bigger than 4 servings in a growler, then the beer can get flat. Or if it's like a porter, it doesn't get flat as fast. But either way, what you do is you bring the reusable glass bottle in. It's disinfected. They'll steam it or run really hot water, and they'll refill it for you. And that saves, a lot of, it saves waste. Now, of course, a lot of alternatives is that a lot of other beverages come in glass that's recyclable. Aluminum takes about 50 years to biodegrade, which isn't the worst, and it is also recyclable. But that is an alternative, to put it out there. That's something that you can do, and it might contribute to your third place. Again, a lot of this change is positive in the social sense, because it gets you out and gets you connected with people. And my also big goal too is that I've gotten over feeling self-conscious about it. I don't care if I look stupid, if I'm, bringing in my own utensils, if I look like I'm camping out of my purse. But the funny thing is that half of these changes don't look that strange. There's people walking in with the reusable cups all the time, and that's a positive aspect of of this, you know, it's socially acceptable. It's, you don't look strange. You're helping the environment. You're doing the right thing, right? But that is a few ways that you can cut down on the reusable, you know, containers, the single-use cups. And again, you know, as we go along, we'll talk a little bit more about like food and packing lunches and things like that. So we'll get to that eventually. But I hope that you can join me. I am going to be posting these videos periodically, in addition to my regular tarot reads. And so I hope you can join me. This is a continuing series, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.